I'm Dick Miller, and today I'm here with our Senator, Jeff Smith, and welcome to you.
Thanks, Dick. It's good to see you. It's when we're here today, we're experiencing a heat wave right now.
Yes, it's June 4th, or is it July 4th?
Yeah, right. That's what it feels like, huh?
Yeah, when I came in, my car registered 90 degrees outside, and tomorrow's supposed to be warmer, I understand.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. I don't know. Maybe the calendars are all messed up. But and I welcome viewers today. Jeff and I try to meet monthly and discuss some of the things that are happening primarily in the Senate, that where he works in Madison, and a lot of things happening down there, which is common. And well, I shouldn't say that. We went through some uncommon times last year when there wasn't much
happening.
happening.
Nothing happened, but this is the year that
this
things
is the
happen.
year. Well, we'll get into those a little bit here. Just an announcement for those of you who enjoy June, and which is also June Dairy Days. Dairy Month. And Jeff, do you want to say a few things about the?
Well, yeah. Gee, I wish I had. I don't have the exact details in front of me, but it is June Dairy Month. Look for that dairy breakfast in your area. You can't beat it. You know, it's always the best breakfast you'll find, and 1,000 people will attend. You know, on each farm that they have these, and the host families do a heck of a lot of work to prepare for these, and you get an opportunity then to experience what they actually do on the farm. They give you a tour. It isn't just a petting zoo, which is the kids like, but it's a real experience of learning what that farm actually does to produce dairy products that we end up finding on our table.
And I know in your last newsletter you indicated the significance, economic significance in Wisconsin. I think it was somewhere in the vicinity of $40 billion a year in that area.
You know, the dairy industry is huge with us, and you know, let's face it, we are still number one. I don't care what other states might try to do as far as quantity. We still have the most cows, the most farms, and the best cheese in the world, right? And that's proven over and over.
It's hard to walk out of a cheese shop without buying several pounds, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's good stuff. I guess you and I grew up on it, and maybe overdo it, but that's okay once in a while too, I think. So as an announcement, for those of you who are living in Trempealeau County, the Malcheski family dairy farm by Independence is this year hosting the breakfast. That's June 12th. And I'm sure if you want more information, you can get a hold of someone at the courthouse or any dairy farmer, and they'll direct you, and it is a great breakfast. So thank you for...
And that's an easy one to find. They're right on Highway 93.
93, and they have some long barns. You can't miss them.
Yeah. So,
and they have been gracious to host this several years since we've lived in this area. So thank you to them for their willingness to have such a massive crowd on their farm.
Yeah. Hopefully the weather's good. Been through some rainy ones before too, and you get stuck out in the fields, but hopefully the weather is good for them.
Well, hopefully they can make up.
And that's just a week away. When you see this, you'll probably be days away from that.
So my experience in the past is you don't necessarily have to be there early. You just get in line.
Yeah.
And they serve people very quickly, and it is a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
A lot of good times. Meet your friends and neighbors there.
Yeah.
So consider that. Now moving into some of the legislative issues. Budget.
Yeah, that's why I'm holding this here for some statistics. But I know, do you have a specific question?
Well, I think, first of all, again, as a reminder, this is a biennial process, and so this is for a budget beginning in the fall, is it?
So the budget begins July 1st.
Of this year.
From July 1 of the odd year to July 1 of the next odd year. Yeah,
okay.
two-year budget.
So there is a deadline.
Oh yeah, we are supposedly get our budget done by June 30th. It doesn't happen every year. When it doesn't happen, it automatically lapses to the old budget until we do complete a new budget.
Okay, so there's a lot of things going on. I read a little bit in the paper. We know that the Governor Evers proposed a budget and sent it to both houses of the legislature, and it sounds like there's some effort to make some changes.
Yeah, some effort is a mild way of putting it. So in the Joint Finance Committee, so both houses make up the Joint Finance Committee, members from both houses, and the majority party has, of course, the most members, and they've made the choice, and actually before, practically before the governor's speech was done in February, they had chosen to reject the governor's proposals for the most part and start from scratch. So that's where we're at. They have gone through some, and I have some statistics. They meet once or twice a week. Hopefully they're moving a little faster now and meeting twice a week, and address agencies specifically, one by one. So they may address 2 or 3 agencies per time they meet, and then take votes on where their budget level may be. So that, for instance, on May 27th, let's see, I'll go start May 6th. That's when they officially stripped the governor's budget out. On May 20th, they met and declined to approve governor's plan to increase funding for housing and homeless programs by more than $70 million over 2 years. On the 27th, they met to take up education investments, which is unusual, actually. They usually wait, because education is probably the biggest and maybe the most important priority in our budget, and usually wait till the end for that. But for some reason, they took it up already. Democrats offered a motion identical to the governor's DPI budget, which would allocate $1.5 billion in total school aid. And what really matters, I guess, is, of course, that was rejected. It was important, though, as far as we were concerned, my side of the aisle, that we address sparsity aid, which is our rural school districts, transportation aid for rural school districts. Those are important. But they rejected that and only offered $150 million in return, as I recall. I don't even have that on here, but I recall that number. So what they did was offer a motion of only 10% of what the governor had suggested for our K-12 schools. Now, more recently, June 2nd, a couple days ago, they refused to consider legalizing medical marijuana, and I know that's a very popular topic with a lot of people these days. It's something that it's frustrating why we can't get past politics with something that is so important to a lot of people to relieve their pain, and economically, some people just can't deal with the cost of medications that they are forced to have to take, and or the addiction that we've seen in opioids. This is a really important issue. They've also we proposed $1 million for deer carcass disposal grants. These are important for the CWD issue, that is the spread of CWD, but that also motion failed. And finally, what's really important over the past year during this pandemic was unemployment insurance for a lot of people who lost their jobs, at least temporarily, if not permanently. And we found, of course, that our Department of Workforce Development was sorely not prepared for such an influx of demand last year. And that was because they're using 1970s software and equipment and telephone system, and we need to upgrade that. And so the governor had proposed $15 million in the budget to do that. The Republicans rejected that as well. So I don't want to be all doom and gloom. I'm hoping that there's some things that will still come back as far as how the Republicans plan to address these important issues. So we'll wait and see.
Okay, a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I think something that I don't have an answer for. Maybe you do. If you don't, that's we didn't prep. We didn't early on.
We never do.
So we're kind of sometimes I may throw a question and he may have to think on it really hard. And I know Jeff is one who will say, I don't know, but I'll check.
Yeah.
And I guess that's all we can ask of any of you folks that are serving in the legislature. The total budget as proposed by Governor Evers, was it significantly higher than the previous year's budget, to your knowledge?
That is a good question, and I don't recall the final number from either the previous budget or this budget. I know they're over $80 billion. We're talking over $80 billion either way. What is happening in the case of what the majority party, which is the Republicans, are arguing is that we're getting federal money to help us overcome the costs of
the pandemic.
COVID pandemic, and they want to actually use that money to
for general budget.
For general budget, and it's just not intended to be the case. And in fact, what is probably going to happen with the low money, the low number that they are offering for our public schools, we won't even be eligible for the money coming from the federal government.
And I think the money, according to something I read, it was $1.5 billion from the feds.
Yeah.
So that may not be. It may not be.
But it was not intended to backfill our budget. It's just it is not intended for that. Let's face it.
Yeah.
None of those things are. This was to boost us back up and maybe even move us beyond and be better prepared for the future.
I guess my experience here in the county is that, and I kept telling the board members, and sometimes they listen to me and sometimes not, and that's their prerogative, of course, was always to, when you have a one-time shot of money, a gift, so to speak, don't use that for general fund, because if you do, you're going to be short that much less. You'll be short the next year when you budget.
Yeah.
Then you won't be able to find it.
It's always hard to come.
You can't find it.
To move it back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that money sometimes is better spent on infrastructure, one-time major expenses. You know.
So the same argument can be made with the Medicaid expansion, and I know you haven't asked about that, but we should talk about that. And that was also in the budget and was discarded by the Republicans in joint finance. But that money was set, and we probably discussed this before, and people might get sick of hearing about it, but it's so important. That money was, if we had expanded Medicaid through the Affordable Care Act, as we should have been doing all along, 38 states have done that and are doing quite well by doing that. We would also have leveraged an extra $1 billion into the state of Wisconsin. And I don't like to think of this should always be about the money, and it shouldn't. But it is, because especially since it is just a one-time boost. But it is $1 billion, and whose money is it? It's our money. It's our tax money in Washington. I'd rather it come back into the state of Wisconsin than go somewhere else. And there's a lot of things we could do with it, and the governor had proposed a number of things that $1 billion should go to, and called a special session for that. But once again, the majority party gavelled in and gavelled out within 10 seconds, and we didn't have any debate whatsoever on this proposal. So I, along with some other colleagues of mine, have introduced his proposal as a bill now, and we're hoping that we, at least keep it alive. But one of the important things that's proposed out of that is use a good chunk of that money for broadband expansion, which we talk about a lot, right? And so there's opportunity there. And broadband expansion is also a one-time investment, really, when you think about it. So why not use one-time money to do that one-time run that network underground to every household, and it makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, I think your general expenditure, no matter what level of government, is primarily employees and supplies, and that would include transportation and so forth. But that's the ongoing expense that's always there. Whether you improve your roads or whether you do this or that, you still have those expenses. So we know that's going to be there. Oh, I was going to hit this real quick. Seems like I read something that the Republicans are interested in a refund, tax refund. Is there anything on? You see any going on there?
You know, that's yeah. You have to refresh my memory on that. There is something that they were hoping. Oh yeah. So this is also false. They are not able to use this money to. That's what they're hoping. That's what originally they hoped. That isn't even on the table anymore. I don't think. I haven't heard them talk about this for a long time. Good. But originally, when the American Rescue Plan was passed in Congress, they proposed that we use the money to give a tax rebate back to our taxpayers in Wisconsin. Well, it's not legally. That's not what the money is for. If we were to do that, we wouldn't even get the money. That wasn't. Again, it's not there to backfill our budget or to just give it away.
You know, it just seems like we've had so many needs that go unmet over the years, and important needs. You know, even if we talk about the basic highway needs,
yeah,
that there has been a tendency, sort of prior to elections, to give money back, and it may not be much, it may be a small amount, but to give it back, and then we're that further behind in making improvements we need to make.
You are so right, Dick. Isn't it always the case? Just before an important election, there will be this bill passed either at the federal level or state level that gives you $30 a year back or something out of your property. I mean, what does that do for you, right? Instead, other than maybe buying somebody's vote, and that's hopefully your vote is not that cheap.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that, you know, the $30 for you and I is not a lot, but when you look at the $30 times the number of people who are paying into it, that's a significant amount of money to be used for major projects.
It is a hit on the budget. Yeah,
it's a very big hit.
And so back up to what you were saying. I mean, you're right. Things get talked about and then get neglected. Our roads for so long, and now we have fallen so far behind, and everybody knows it. I mean, you drive down those county roads and town roads, and even the state highway system, and it's constantly just a Band-Aid approach of trying to fix and patch and fix and patch, and we aren't, and we're way behind on that. Yeah,
well, and all of our infrastructure.
Yeah.
Well, one of the issues that I picked up in regards to the budget is in reference to lead pipe issues. And I think that was taken out of the budget.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And again, some of the things are head scratchers because kids are being poisoned, and yet we are just like PFAS issue that they put a halt to DNR regulating PFAS. I mean, something's not right when we as legislators are really not doing our job. Our job is to protect. Our job is to be sure that people feel like we take for granted that our water is safe because we have inspectors, and our food is safe because we have inspectors. And where does that come from? It comes from government. And when we don't do our job, I think you got to be careful about that. It's not safe.
And I think you mentioned the safety, food safety. If we go back a number of years when there wasn't much effort made, there was severe problems, health problems, and I guess philosophically speaking, government is there to serve the public, and obviously, and less obvious to me, the government. We're not to serve the government. They're to serve us and our needs and keeping us safe and so forth. And I think when government functions well, society functions well. Just like healthcare. this is a transition into Badger care in terms of what's happening there.
Yeah, yeah. You're right, Dick, but not everybody feels that way.
Yeah, well,
they've been convinced that government's bad.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, government doesn't operate on profit and how much profit they make, because there is no profit. So I'd much prefer to trust the people you elect, and that's why we have elections as well. And you can have turnaround unless you're gerrymandered.
Tell us something about gerrymandering.
Yeah. So
why don't you define that?
Well, we have a few minutes
listeners
left, and gerrymandering is taken from a governor back from Massachusetts back in the 1800s who introduced this concept where he drew a map where it looked like a salamander, and his name was Gary, actually, Gerry, but it's pronounced Gary, so it should be gerrymandering.
Oh, okay.
But they adopted that name and it stuck, so as far back as that. But now with computers and software and the systems that they have, it has been incredible what they've been able to do and what they did to Wisconsin 10 years ago. Without public acknowledgement, without public hearings, with secrecy agreements that were signed by every Republican legislator. This is the fact. You can look it up. They signed had to walk across the street to a private law office and sign a non-disclosure agreement that they would not talk about the process of redistricting. I mean, can you imagine? These are public officials that swear to serve you. That happened. And now, as we speak, there is a bill that's being fast-tracked just a couple days ago. Well, it was probably, we first heard about it a week ago. And without any names on it, usually a bill has an author and it circulates to get sponsors, so legislators are behind the bill. No one's name is on this bill, and had a hearing in the Assembly 2 days ago as we speak. And it's in a committee that I'm serving in the Senate. We had to actually cast a ballot today to introduce it to the committee and have a executive vote on it next Monday, and we haven't had a hearing on it. And there's no one's name is on this bill.
And there's no public.
There's no
public input.
Well, not yet. Well, there was public input on 2 days ago. And this bill, what it does quickly, this is quick, is they do have the counties and towns and cities on board with this bill, because what it does is buy them time to draw their maps. Now this gets in the weeds, but they generally have to draw their maps by statutes by July of this year. But of course, the census data is not coming until August. So they're giving them from August 15th, which is when they expect to get it, till April. So they're in essence giving them 8 months by the statutes. Think about this. We actually, as legislators, have to get our papers pulled in April for our districts to be able to run the next campaign. So then the legislature will be able to say, oh, it's too late. We only just got the maps from the municipalities, which we don't have time now to draw these districts, and they're going to get at least one more session, one more cycle on the gerrymandered maps that they created in 2011. You know, this state of Wisconsin and the public should not have to rely on only one election, which was 2010, for the rest of their lives to make our decisions in our government. Because that's exactly what has happened, and they're trying to extend that. I get fired up about this particular backdoor approach that they're taking to gerrymander by passing a bill like this through without anybody on there. There seems to be that no one wants to put their name on it, but they want to get this through. Fortunately,
but there's nothing requiring anyone to be a sponsor.
No, we're checking the rules on that, but they're going to call it a committee bill.
But you still have to have names on it, don't you?
No, they're just going to say the committee of, my case in the Senate, Government Operations. In the assembly, it was state affairs. That's it. So it gives the public the impression that this is a bipartisan, easy, you shouldn't think twice about it. But no, it's not easy.
Well, anyone who has ever run for public office has to make a hard decision if they're going to run. I mean, that's not an easy decision oftentimes.
Yeah, that's true.
And here they won't even know what district they're going to be running in, or who they might run against.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a kind
and
of
the people the people who are in power corrupts, and the people who are in power want to hang on to that power, and they're going to do anything to hang on to that power. And I want everyone to keep that in mind. I don't, no matter how you vote, no matter what your philosophy is, no one should believe that you should be able to do anything to hang on to power, because power corrupts. I've seen it firsthand, and I know what it does on both sides of the aisle. So we need to stop that. So I've introduced the bill 2 weeks ago to reform our redistricting system so that it would be by a nonpartisan commission outside of the legislature who would study and produce a map that they would then give to the legislature to consider. That's how it should work. It works that way in Iowa and a few other places around the country. And right now, and fortunately, we do have a People's Map Commission that the governor introduced a year ago, and they've been doing that. And it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. In the meantime, I know we're going to get a whole different, maybe not a lot different from what we have from the Republicans as the majority party, and we'll have opposing views.
Well, I wish we could go on this because I've got some reactions to this whole process. Just a comment, gerrymandering, what it causes, and I don't care which party gerrymanders, what it causes is that one vote is worth more than another vote. It's not, the votes aren't equal to each other, and it's not very democratic.
Not at all.
Not at all. But we're getting close to the end, and it goes fast.
Yeah.
And I thank you for being here today, and I wish all of our viewers well and cool sailing for the next few days.
That's right. Yeah. Stay safe. Contact my office if you have any comments or more questions about the things we talked about today, and would love to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and good day.